Well, we achieved a lot. Before sending you off to the next module, here's one more important thing you gotta know about the for loop in Vue.js. The for loop as we use it here works fine, as you can clearly see. It's important to understand what happens behind the scenes though. If Vue.js needs to update one of these values because somewhere in your code you change one of the elements here. And let's show this by below the ingredients array adding a button here. I'll add a button which says add new, where I will simply push a new item on the array. So we'll say ingredients, which is this array down there, push, and then let's simply push some spices. If I now hit Control Enter, you see I can add spices to my array, just like that. Works fine. Two important things are to be noted here. First, Vue.js conveniently proxies this push method here, because generally the push method does not create a new array, it simply adds items to the existing one, and that is a bit hard to track since the object itself, the array, doesn't change here, because it's a reference type and the pointer to the type hasn't changed. Only the value in memory, but for that to realize you have to watch this value in memory, which Vue.js does for us automatically, which is why we get this expected behavior here, which if you really think about it, is not necessarily expected. But it works, that's fine, nothing to do from our side. The other important thing is, how does Vue.js update this list if some item needs to be changed or something like that? It updates the list by simply updating the position in the array where something changed. So if you were to overwrite the second element through two-way binding, for example, it would update the second element in this list. It does not keep track of the specific element it created. It will only patch it in the second position. Oftentimes, this is the behavior you want. But if you want to be super safe and want to make sure that Vue.js is not only aware of the position, but of the actual list item on which the value you're working with sits, you need to assign a unique key to that list item. So here, for example, you do this by using the vbind syntax, or shorthand :key, and then you pass a unique key. Now you might pass the index, though that is kind of tricky as this index is derived from the list itself and set dynamically while rendering the list. A better key would be a real unique value. So if, for example, here you know that each ingredient will only be on this list once, you might very well use that ingredient here. With that, if I re-render this, it works as before, but behind the scenes, you are now safe, and Vue.js not only stores the position of that element, but the element itself, which means should it ever need to reorder them or do something like that, it will take the actual element and reorder it, and not just override the values in some of the positions it finds in the array. This is just some background knowledge to be aware of. Oftentimes you won't recognize the difference, but if you run into any strange bugs with your for loop that some items are updated in a different place than you expect them to be, check if you are assigning a key. If not, you might add one and this might resolve this issue. With that, we really had a detailed look at v-for and v-if. Let's continue.